a working class Asian female than I have with Tony Blair, Richard Branson or the Queen. And I feel a lot more solidarity there than I do when I look at, you know, British capitalists and such like, who are just taking the wealth of society and using it for their own ends.
Can I take one last one from the ground there?
I think any system could work, but it's just the fact that people have to believe it. It's clear that people would benefit more from a socialist system than they would from a capitalist. Capitalist systems in general tends to just give that difference between the rich and the poor. And overall, in general, if you look at the long term, capitalism makes the best conditions for a failed state. Okay? Now, as it goes, they'll profit and profit, but the people who they're producing for, the people producing these goods, can't buy the goods. So in the long term, you'll end up with goods stacked in factories somewhere where nobody's going to buy it. So in a sense, that wouldn't work. Whereas a socialist state would produce only goods which people need. And what's going to take this society forward. So in a sense, socialism is a better solution than the bourgeois economics or capitalists, if you want to call them.
Sorry, would anybody mind if I just quickly come back on that?
Yes, please quickly.
Yes. It's going to be really quick. I'm just going to point out the point that Alvy made there about how in capitalism the factories get stacked up with goods that the people who produce them can't afford to buy. When you look at it economically, that's how we got in this whole situation. In the 19th century, British capitalism was producing a massive surplus, and the British working class were so poor they could not afford to buy the goods they produced. And so the factories closed because nobody was buying the goods that were producing, and the warehouses were filling. And the way that British capitalism solved that was by going over across Asia, Africa, America, and just conquering its way across the planet to secure markets. So, you know, once you've conquered this poor state, thousands of miles away, that's somewhere where you can export your goods to, and also get yourself some cheap coal and iron coming back into the country. That is what has driven imperialism over the past couple of hundred years. And that ultimately is what, you know, was the basis of the British Empire that has led us into this discussion today in the long run.
Okay, brother, the last question on the floor. Is it a question or statement?
It's a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Both speakers have said similar things like taxing the rich. So I want to know, what is the difference between Islam and socialism? How does Islam differentiate itself from socialism?
Okay, very quickly. Islam, it puts sovereignty in the hands of, or sovereignty comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our rules, our regulations are taken from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're not taken from the mind of an individual. And there are stark differences if you even look at economy. That we don't believe in complete state ownership. Islam, the beauty of Islam, I told you, it solves the problem looking at man. Man has the propensity to want, to own. So unlike socialism, we don't destroy this. Neither do we let it rampant, unlike capitalism. So capitalism elects it, you can own what you like. So if you want to own some waterworks, own some waterworks and switch up the water to the rest of the country, it doesn't matter. You have that propensity. And on the other side, let the state own it and let the state regulate all of it. Okay? Islam doesn't look at the problem from a private or a public, it looks at the problem from a human perspective. That I have the propensity to own. It's part of my nature. I want to own my own house. I want to own machinery. I want to own a business. And so what if the business is flourishing? Islam doesn't look at flourishing businesses in a bad way. Not at all. But whereas the minute you start talking about profit, socialism kicks in and say, hang on a minute, slow down. What's going on? Islam recognizes this. This is man's nature. The propensity to actually earn wealth, to do well in life. Islam doesn't take the outlook on anyone. So Islam gives a very clear, succinct view of the human being. He has these needs, he has these wants, and they have to be fulfilled. So I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, when the earthquake happened in Pakistan, he went to Balakot to help. He spent about 8-9 months there. When he got there, and this is, if you like, a perfect example of some of the difference. when he got there, private companies, they were making tents for the poor people. And suddenly when there was a demand for these tents, you can imagine what the price of these tents went to. It was through the roof. So there's capitalism. So what happened? The military decided to take control. The government decided to take control of all the tent companies and put them under state control. And then what did you find? Like in some parts there were tents, in some parts there were no tents. And it was all regulated by the state. It became, if you like, nationalized. The tent making equipment, tent making plants, they were all taken over by the military, and the military were running. So the private ownership didn't solve the problem, neither did the state ownership solve the problem. Whereas if you look at Islam, Islam came to look at this issue, and this is an issue, if someone is making money, that's fine. But when, in my mind, I don't envisage in a time of crisis, the Muslim society rocketing its prices so high to a point where it's taking advantage of the poor people. Neither do I envisage the state to take over that and control it for its own benefit. Rather, Islam, and we saw this between the Muhajir and the Ansar. When the Prophet ﷺ, he saw the Muhajir and the Ansar were the rich, and the Muhajir, they were poor. And the Prophet ﷺ said, who is it who's going to help these Muhajir? And the Ansar, they raised their hands. So the Ansar, they gave up their houses for the Muhajir. They gave up their property for the Muhajir. That was the Islamic view on looking at how to solve this simple issue. So in my view, neither does Islam suppress the need of man, neither does it run rampant like capitalism, nor suppress it like socialism. It recognizes man as a social being, and it aims to solve these problems from a human perspective rather than a perspective of running wild or trying to suppress them.